Kelsey Stufel, Director of Community Investment. We'd like to welcome you to our webinar series today. I'm going to introduce you to our presenter, Dale Osborne, our Director of Outreach with TS Institute. And Kyle spends a lot of his time doing strategy and outreach work with our Southwest Iowa schools. And before his time, he came to us in 2012 to the Institute, but before that time, he was a youth pastor in Madison, South Dakota for 6 years. Kyle holds a Bachelor's of Arts degree in Christian Education and Ministry, as well as Business Administration and Finance. Kyle lives in Council Bluffs, Iowa with his wife, Michelle, and their 4 children, Elida, Lily, and Lincoln. So with that, I'll let you take it away, Kyle.
Sounds good. Thanks, Kelsey. A couple things I want to share just right off the bat. Everybody in this webinar is going to be muted today, and so Kelsey's going to be keeping track of all the questions in the chat feature. If you look in the top left, there's an attendee chat, so you can go ahead and click that and throw out a question, and love to answer those. If I see it during the presentation and I can just tackle it real quick, I'll do that. But if it's kind of a bigger question, I'll wait till the end and then I'll have Kelsey remind me of what those are. So excited that you're here. Today's presentation is also going to be recorded. And so if you want to go back through a couple of the slides and hear what was actually shared in reference to a particular resource, just know that there's going to be a video recording and then there's a questionnaire at the end that will have a giveaway. I believe it's going to be $20 or $25 gift card. So stay to the end and throw your name in the hat for the survey. There's Kelsey. Thanks, Kelsey, for hosting today. And there's myself. I've been doing financial literacy for quite a while. Believe that it first has to start in the home and then can be brought to the classroom or to the workplace. So excited about what we're going to talk about today. So specifically today, we're going to talk about 7th grade financial literacy standards. And some of these are going to be resources. Some are just going to be good ideas, hopefully, and best practice. And as we dive into them, one of the things that as a 7th grade teacher, maybe you teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, a couple of the questions I've had in the past is, well, how should I teach these? Should I teach one lesson and have it cover the standard, or should I do a couple of them? Well, to be honest with you, the way that the Department of Ed handles it is if you are covering it, it could be in a couple lessons or it could be in conjunction with another standard. So one of the things that we encourage educators to do is if you're teaching business and you can integrate some of these financial literacy standards with it, great. If you're a math teacher or social studies and you can integrate them into a world history lesson, great. Or you can collaborate maybe with an art teacher to accomplish some of these standards. That's also recommended too. So you can tackle these in a lot of different creative ways. On here, I wanted to show you the 6th grade and the 7th grade standards. If you are not teaching 6th grade, I think it's just helpful if you know that, if you notice in the left column, all of those are your anchor standards. The center column is your 6th grade. And as you go through them, so for example, on the create a savings and spending plan, you'll notice that demonstrate how to allocate income for spending, saving, and giving. And then you'll also see a totally different standard for 7th grade. So that's somewhat intentional, but hopefully it builds on that previous standard. If you go down one, the analyze credit and debt levels, explain how credit cards, or debit cards differ from credit cards, gift cards, and savings. You'll notice that the 7th grade one graduates from, okay, so the students already know what the difference of those are. Now, as you look at 7th grade standard, asking the students to basically, okay, so now that you know all of those differences, we want you to know what your responsibility is. And so just want to make sure that you see those and then also know that they're hopefully building on one another. We're going to continue on. I shared this in my 6th grade presentation. I want to share it again in my 7th grade one. When you begin your unit, your financial literacy unit, or whatever unit that you're going to be starting, I want to encourage you to start with your best lesson first. And what I mean by that is you might be a little bit off topic with the content, but I want to encourage you, kick it off with some crazy group interactive or small group interactive simulation or just engaging activity. Make it memorable, make it interactive. The students will come back the second class and will be excited. I borrowed that from a friend, and I just really believe that to be true. So we're going to dive in. The first standard that we want to look at is predict the relationship between financial goals and achievements. And so as I've taught financial literacy for 10 years now, some of it a little bit just in personal, but professionally more so in the last 7 to 8 years. There's one stat and there's one quote that I love to share when it comes to like financial goals and just like a person's responsibility to that. So if you look at the quote from Andy Stanley, everybody ends up somewhere, and a few people end up somewhere on purpose. And those are the ones that have vision. And so as you teach this, I can't stress it enough. If the students have really no direction of where you are going or what direction they're going, they're not going to actually find value in some of what you're going to teach related to financial literacy. And so this is usually when I teach community classes or when I teach upper level high school, and on occasion when I'm in the different middle school classes across the state, I'll see some students that are like, so what does this matter to me? And that's really my opportunity, and hopefully your opportunity, to give them a vision of how important it is for them to know where they're going. I have an activity that I'll show you in the next couple slides, and that correlates with that. But and then 3% of Harvard MBA graduates make 10 times as much as the other 97% of the graduates combined. Well, why is that? They have written down financial goals. And so I try to connect both of those pieces as we talk about what does it look like to achieve, and then what does it look like not only just to have dreams, but actually have goals that we're attaining. So continuing on with this standard, as you look at the left side, we're going to start from the far left, the take charge activities. If you look at each of these pictures are going to be hyperlinked. So when you go back through this presentation, you can just click on the hyperlink and it'll send you to the website. But the top take charge lesson connects to the picture below it. So it's a little bit small, but you'll be able to see it bigger once you get the PowerPoint. But the picture, the blue graph and the green graph really shows education in correlation to unemployment. And so with this lesson, the students are actually going to see how some of their goals in relation to life, career, those types of things have a direct correlation to their financial success and how they achieve in life. And so there's an activity in this lesson that is pretty neat. The students are given different education ranges, and if they have a PhD or a professional degree, they're able to build. Well, let me take a step back. So in this illustration, a part of this lesson is students are trying to build a paper tower or a tower made of paper. And with that, they have different educational backgrounds. So the student that has a PhD, let's say, can use his hands, can see, can talk, can get up and walk around. Whereas the student that's designated that maybe is a high school dropout, maybe can only use his less dominant hand, can't speak, and has limited abilities. And so this is a great illustration. And then there's 4 or 5 different students in the group that are trying to build the tower. They have different abilities based on their education, based on their financial goals that they had for their life. So great illustration to show limited opportunity in relation to education. So I want to encourage you to check that out. The other lesson at the bottom, the Take Charge logo there at the bottom left, it's a lesson on SMART goals. So I know a lot of students have heard goals, goal planning, those types of things. But the thing that I really liked about this lesson is there's a charades dynamic where the students actually are pulling different cards, and they have to do a charades, and they have to guess what they're acting out. And then when they guess it, they have to decide, is it short term, long term, those types of things. So it's really connecting the financial goal planning to charades, and the students, I'm sure, would love it. So I want to encourage you to check that out. In the middle, you'll notice the Post-it image, the Linuit. One of the activities that I did when I was in middle school that I remember, so it's been a few years now, but in middle school, I had one of my teachers set us down, and we took Post-it notes, and we started from as far as we could remember, and we just wrote individual memories on a Post-it note. So we started some of the earliest memories to the current memories, and then we wrote down everything that we could remember. So like first time riding my bike, first time getting some money from working, first time, like different memories across your lifespan. And then my teacher encouraged us, now take out 3 or 4 of the most impactful ones and why they were. And then she wanted us to connect those to formation. How did it form us? How did it encourage us? How did it discourage us? And so you start seeing how different markers in my life and the rest of my students in my class's life have actually formed us. And we talked about, in relation to where we want to go now. And so if you don't want to do that, or you don't have the money to buy a bunch of Post-it notes, you can use the Linuit, which is a tool. I hyperlinked it. It's an online Post-it note corkboard. So you can use that as a tool also, and have the students actually make quite a few different corkboard illustrations, kind of like stating out their life in a timeline. So underneath that is the Next Gen Personal Finance. That is a great resource. If you haven't checked that out, it's a phenomenal resource. One of the things that in this hyperlinked lesson is it actually breaks down, helps students break down in relation to saving. So if I want to save up for, let's say, moped, it actually helps students break down, okay, well, if this moped is going to cost $4,000, how much should I be saving a month, a week, a day in relation to that? So it kind of helps them see the big picture of that, and then also getting them to think about the daily, like how much do I need to save today? So the last 3 pictures on the right side, Money Island is an online tool. It's about a boy who basically lost everything, became a rock, and the students have to save him. Has a great lesson in this. The Choices curriculum has also been helps students consider, well, if I drop out of high school, there's an activity in the Choices curriculum. If I drop out of high school and I can make this amount of money, but they forget that they're giving up future income based on education. So just want to throw that out there as a resource. And then the Track Your Spending. This is an activity that I've done in the past where I have students track their spending and income for a week, and then I come back, and then the next week they don't track it, and then we compare what their spending and saving look like, just as an example, and how that relates to their financial goals. So I want to continue on. So there's 4 primary standards in seventh grade. The second one is related to how marketing and advertising has influenced our spending decisions. And so I have a pretty funny, if you haven't seen this, it's a Saturday Night Live skit. The top left picture, don't buy stuff you can't afford. It's, 3 or 4 minutes. It's super hilarious. And it just talks about, man, I can't buy things that I don't have money for. It's pretty hilarious. So it's just a kind of a soft intro to this topic. If you look on the picture to the right, come check out our stool samples. I think that's brilliant. IKEA has done. And so one of the lessons, if you look in the bottom left, the Take Charge Today curriculum connects the students to some of these kind of corny and cheesy advertisements that are out there, but it begs the question, like, why are they doing the tactic that they're doing, and then does that actually convince me to go buy a stool or to go buy whatever so the take charge lesson actually connects students to, well, should I buy name brand? Should I buy store brand? How should I research? And do I have a buying plan? Those types of things, which kind of combat the advertising and marketing techniques. So it's just a great tool for you. On the right side, the Next Gen Personal Finance tool, it actually walks students through different advertisements, and it has the students consider, what are they trying to get me to buy? Are they actually trying to get me to buy the actual product? Are they trying to get me to actually buy something more than the product that eventually will make me purchase their product? So I wanted to connect that concept to the bottom video, the Coke video. It's a video that really tries to, and you'll see this as you watch it later on, but just for time purposes, we can't watch it. But this particular video sells people on that we are all different and we can all be together. And if we're going to be all different and we're going to commit to being together on this mission of being human, then you should buy a Coke. It's brilliant. So they're actually getting you to buy into the bigger picture that we're all in this together as human beings. And so it's brilliant marketing. So just a great way to connect your students to, different companies. They may not come out right and say you should buy our product, but they're getting you to buy into something that eventually you buy into their product. So just having the students kind of consider it that way. So analyzing credit and debt levels. This one, there's so many different resources out there. This one is definitely a harder one. It's definitely a harder concept for students to get, just because a lot of them don't have credit cards, a lot of them don't have debt, those types of things. So how do you get them excited about individuals' rights and responsibilities as a consumer? Well, I mean, some of that's the fine print, like in a credit card application. So I put this in the ANT in my last, the 6th grade standards. I want to include it in this one because it shows the responsibility, particularly of different bugs, if you will, and how that correlates to their ability to save. So this particular lesson is about an ant, a cricket, and a beetle, and they are saving. The ant saves a lot for the winter. The cricket saves a little bit, and the beetle saves a little bit less. And pretty soon winter comes and spring comes, and the ant is fine, but the cricket is struggling, and the beetle is definitely struggling because he didn't save up enough. And so it's a direct correlation to responsibility. Like, are you planning ahead? Whereas the middle picture, the payback, is a great online tool. The students actually run through a game in relation to college, getting them thinking about student loan debt, college choices, those types of things, and how it affects them. And there's a lesson that goes along with that, just helping them see, like, man, if I get into debt, that might affect my future career because I might have to work 2 jobs and it might not be that exciting. So it's a great way to connect the dots in real life. Whereas the top right is a Your Life, Your Money. Donald Faison he's the host of a documentary, and it walks through different people's lives and how they made choices and what kind of education they got. And it's real life, super applicable. It gets students thinking about what type of choices should I be making and what responsibility do I have as a consumer in relation to education. So great resource. If you look in the bottom or the middle, Take Charge Today, that particular one is a lesson that connects a lot of the top resources, but it also talks about like paying back college. It covers quite a few of the nuances of this standard pretty well, and so I wanted to throw that in there. The Next Gen Personal Finance in the middle, so we're looking at the middle NGPF. That one is a lesson that pulls up a bunch of small print in relation to credit card agreements, that type of stuff. And so you can really connect the dots to students. Like, when you sign your name on the dotted line for a credit card or a loan, this is what you're agreeing to. But to be honest, sadly, many people don't even look at the small print. So that's a great exercise. The last three pictures, the CFPB, I should say the CFPB and the Iowa Department of Justice, those are just good resources for you as an adult and can connect the students to. Consumer Federation Protection Bureaus, the CFPB, really to help consumers make wise choices and then also intervene when they have trouble. I've worked with the Iowa Department of Justice in relation to the Attorney General. Great resource if you feel like you've been taken advantage of by a business or anything related to that. They help you as a consumer, but also help you understand like what you're responsible for, what you're not. Those are great resources. And then the final one, the final picture on the bottom right is Broke, Busted, and Disgusted. That's a movie. It's about 45 minutes or so, related to student debt, college, choices, responsibility, what happens to student loans, that kind of stuff. Adam Carroll is a good friend of ours at TS Institute, and he was concerned by student loan debt and what that was doing to America. So I thought that would be a great video to refer you to. The last and final slide and standard that we're going to cover today is explain how an investment differs from saving. This one can be kind of interesting. Some people say, man, you don't get any return from a savings account. Don't put money in there. A real simple way to kind of tackle that is on the left side, the compound interest calculator. Just kind of pull up how if you put money into a savings account, you can actually put the interest rate. If you put it into like an investment, you can actually put the interest rate. Like if you save $5 a day, it actually shows the students real time what it looks like for that money to compound over the years. So they can obviously see if you invest it at 8% or save it at, let's say, 2%, they're going to see a big difference in like future returns. So then the students say, well, why should I even save at all if I'm not going to make any as big a return? Well, then the question is so I put that picture in the middle of the piggy bank, is why have a savings account? And so you could actually talk about the nuances of like, well, a savings account is actually for emergencies. It can be for what you're like saving up for a car. You don't put money into an investment for emergencies or saving for a car, or saving for a house, those types of things. So when you're talking about those, just helping the students see the differences and the importance. So on the far right side, this is a cartoon character illustration from Sesame Street, but I always like to kind of have students do some research and then have them have a little bit of a debate. So one idea that I had that you could implement in your classroom is that you could have one side of the room have put down all the pros of a savings account, pros and cons, and then the right side of the room, all the pros and cons of investment. So as they research and as they consider the pros and cons of those, they're actually educating one another as they talk about the pros and cons of saving and pros and cons of investing. And by whole, they're learning along the way. So encourage you to do that. On the bottom left, the Take Charge Today, it's a lesson on paying yourself first. It talks about, there's an illustration in there with jelly beans. There's an illustration in there of like how much should you take out of your check? Why should you take that out of your check? It's just a great lesson. And then Money Island is also another tool. It's in the past slides, so you can check that out. But I put the FDIC picture in here just for your benefit. I mean, you could show that to the students that the FDIC is only insuring savings dollars or checking dollars at the financial institution up to $250,000. So when students actually talk about the pros and cons to savings and investing, they need to know that investments are not FDIC insured, that those are in the public market, many of them, whether it's bonds, mutual funds, stocks, ETFs, whatever they are, those are not insured. And so that's a big deterrent to people putting money in just because they might be a little bit more conservative. But that's one of the bigger differences when it talks about saving and investing. So wanted to share that with you just so you know a little bit more. And then um, just the resources and tools. Some of them can be used. So the Take Charge, the Next Gen, we use primary a lot of those. If you go to tsinstitute.org, we have a lot of resource repository. We also have standards and how these different resources align to those standards. So that's a really good tool for you as an educator. I like to encourage students to use Powtoons. They can create animations so they can learn. So, for example, if they're learning about saving and investing, they can actually create a caricature and a cartoon talking about like let's say two people walk into a restaurant, and the students can actually create a cartoon and two people talking about the pros and cons to saving and investing. So it's just a great way for students to not just have to, write a report or write a essay or debate, but they can actually create a cartoon, which would be a fun way for them to learn. So if you're wanting to learn more a little bit about different different levels of different what am I trying to say? So people that make different amounts of money, so high income, medium income, low income, the Bridges Out of Poverty is a great resource for you if you want to kind of understand the worldview of people from different income levels. So if you have some students that are in maybe a challenging situation where they don't have a lot of money, but you're having a tough time getting through and just communicating about money to them, it's a great resource for you. And then Winning the Money Game is a great book for students too. I want to open it up for questions, and then just remind you that at the end of this webinar, we're going to do a survey. Just let us know what you thought, if you need any more resources in relation to your classroom or best practice. If you fill out that survey, your name will go in the hat for I can't remember, it's like a $20 or $25 gift card. So please do that. So I want to open it up for questions. If you have any, go ahead and throw them in the chat feature, and love to answer those at this time.
Kyle, I just had a question, and I got verified here that the all the picture images that you were showing of like Money Island and the other images, those are all live links. So when they do get that, it'll take them directly to that website. That is correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
awesome.
They can either open up the PowerPoint and then they can right click it and then they can open link from there.
Yep.
They can actually
okay.
go into
Great.
presentation mode.
Just want to let everybody know that too.
Yep. Want to make it as ideally you'd have some live demo, but this is the most conducive for what we have.
Tammy's got a question here. She says, does it cost to get the Bridges Out of Poverty book, or could it be offered to educators for free?
Good question. I know the executive director out of Omaha. I could ask him for you. If you would, I'm going to move to the next slide over. So if you would send me an email at kyle.osborne. Was that Tammy?
Yeah, this is Tammy.
Okay, Tammy. So if you would send me an email, kyle.osborne@tsinstitute.org, I'll reach out to Roger, who's the executive director, and see if I can get a couple copies if that's something that you'd be interested in. Happy to help. Cool. Well, if anybody has any other questions, feel free to throw them out there. Want to, on behalf of Dordt College and TS Institute and the Iowa Council, it's been fun to put these together for you all. If you have other educators that would benefit from this webinar series, so we're doing everything from economics to financial literacy, and we're going through every grade, K through 12. So if this would be helpful for anybody else that you know, please send them out, and we're thankful that you've come today. So if there's no other questions, thanks for coming, and Hope you have a great night.